everyone, welcome to another top 5 records video, and today I'm going to be talking about the 5 best albums from 1984. An interesting year because people learned that they were not living in an Orwellian dystopian future, although some people of course agree these days. Anyway, now 1984 is the past, and looking back into the past we can see what was music doing in those days. And I think 1984 is a year with some very nice, outspoken new sounds. A very outspoken year. And I'm going to start off this list of the 5 best albums from 1984 with a band new in this series. I have not included any of their albums yet. This is the first time. Van Halen with the album 1984. And this one is a killer. I love this album. I bought it not so long ago, about 1.5 years ago. I found this first US pressing of this album, and it's gorgeous. It sounds beautiful. This is kick ass. I mean, after this opening intro, you get into the song Jump. And I never was way too much into that song. I always thought that the first Van Halen album was my favorite album. Now I found this one out. It's a rocker. It's a killer, and it is typical for me. It is one of those essential big hair hard rock metal 80s bands albums. It's so strong. It's a real pusher. I love it. On the number 5 spot, Van Halen 1984. Oh, another interesting thing here. I noticed this on the sleeve of this first US Winchester pressing, if I'm right. Namely, here it says 1983. So I guess this was pressed in 1983, but it was released in January. So is it a good one to start off the list? Well, what I do is I look at when was it released. So an album can be recorded before that. I always take the release date. So 1984, from 1984 by Van Halen on the number 5 spot. I'm gonna go into another very, very interesting album which makes me really excited. Purple Rain by Prince and the Revolution. Man, this is a killer. I think even this is my favorite Prince album because it has some of his best songs. I mean, how can I say this? It's a soundtrack album, but it's a soundtrack album like an Elvis Presley or A Hard Day's Night is a soundtrack album. As a matter of fact, the film is much more of an excuse to record these songs and as a promotional vehicle. Well, I know there are fans of the film, and the film has its 80s nostalgia quality. And I know it's also included in 1001 Films You Must See Before You Die, but not because of its sheer storytelling quality. I mean, because it works as a vehicle for Prince and as a vehicle for this album, and it has so many great songs. Let's Go Crazy. Darling Nikki, which was the start of a very controversial battle surrounding what artists are allowed to say in their lyrics. And Frank Zappa started to go, I believe, in court or in the government. I'm not American, but he strongly protested against it. Prince did not join the battle, though the argument started with Darling Nikki because she's doing some sexual acts in the song. Now, side 2 has When Doves Cry, I Would Die For You, and of course the song Purple Rain. When you put this on, it's a killer sounding, brilliant album. It's so good. Prince sounds so charismatic, and it sounds completely like an element of its time. I think 1984, no, not 1984. I think Prince and the Revolution's Purple Rain might be one of my most 80s sounding albums ever. I love it. On number 4. Now, number 3. This might come to you as a surprise, but it is gorgeous. the Meat Puppets 2 by the Meat Puppets. Now, you might say, I don't know the Meat Puppets. Have you heard the Nirvana MTV Unplugged sessions? Yeah, they played 3 Meat Puppets. They are on here. Lake of Fire, Plateau, and... are there only 2? No. Lake of Fire, oh me, Lake of Fire and Plateau. And I love the Nirvana, sorry, 3. And I love the Nirvana versions. You know, I love the Nirvana versions, but the Meat Puppets cannot be beaten. I got to this album through the Nirvana versions, put it on for the first time, and I had to find a final copy. Now, there is this beautiful reissue from 2012, which is on 45, on a single disc. The album is not that large, so they could make a 45 RPM pressing on this disc, and it sounds beautiful. I mean, apart from the 3 Nirvana cover songs you might know, the entirety is just crazy. I mean, they have such a free spirit. They are not at all interested in sounding in or out of tune. It's just this fierceful bash of emotion. It's not even punk. It's not even punk. It's I don't know what you call it. It's a beautiful, beautiful masterpiece of somewhat rock. And there's so much great melodies in there. It is completely unique. There is not a band like the Meat Puppets. Do yourself a favor, find this album and listen to it. It is worth every second of your time. It's so powerful. Then we have here, on the number 3 spot, Born in the USA by Bruce Springsteen. What can I say? Classic album. Starts off with Born in the USA, and you have songs like I'm on Fire, No Surrender, Bobby Jean, Dancing in the Dark, in My Hometown. I mean, just as the Purple Rain album, one of those completely typical 80s albums. It's 80s as 80s can be. Love it. Completely love it. Great, great album. Now, number 1 spot. To me, the best album of 1984. I've been playing this over and over and over and over again. Stop Making Sense by the Talking Heads. Now, this is a live recording. This is a live recording for a film, just like Purple Rain. What Talking Heads did was they hired Jonathan Demme. Jonathan Demme, the director who later would become famous for films like Philadelphia and The Silence of the Lambs, to make a concert film. But it had to be a concert film like no other concert film. They started off, David Byrne started off with the first song, Psycho Killer, with a tape, a radio tape. It's just a backing track with just rhythm. So he could walk on stage, you hear the rhythm, so they could edit several pieces and nights together. That's why they have the rhythm track, and he plays there all along with the rhythm track, Psycho Killer. And every new song, a new band member or a new artist is introduced, so it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And that makes for one of the best concert films ever, and to me, the best album of 1984, because these are the ultimate recordings of Talking Heads songs. Psycho Killer, starting off with Psycho Killer, it sounds so strong and brilliant. Burning Down the House. The energy is so incredible. Once in a Lifetime, Live During Wartime, Take Me to the River. It's such an immensely powerful album. It is a masterpiece, and to me, the essential album of 1984. So, what are your picks? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Leave a comment below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.